right? Some tournament called Tata Steel Challengers.
Yeah,
not too impressive.
Not a big deal. Not like he had a performance rating that was sky high. Not that it matters that he made the top group for next year. And also he earned the praise of Magnus Carlsen, saying that Arjun's classical rating is not 2,700, but that's only because he hasn't been able to play enough events. He'll get there soon. So everybody has high expectations for Arjun, but he loves playing chess. He's doing great. And right now with the white piece against Wesley So, he's slightly ahead in the clock in the early stages of this game, but black is very solid here. It almost looks like white, despite having the first move, has not really taken advantage because it's a closed looking position. Now knight f5, Danya, just guesses bishop on e3.
Well, it's the clamp on the d4 square that makes this so annoying to play for white. White would love to just free himself by pushing that pawn. That's never going to happen. Black has a million defenders on it. So Arjun has to kind of work around Black's central clamp. He goes bishop c5. White is, of course, very solid. There are no real targets, but this is a Wesley type of position.
That's right. And what Arjun is hoping is for a move like b6, because the bishop on g2, suddenly it comes to life and there's issues down the long diagonal. So I would not play b6 right now. I feel like tactically speaking, there must be an issue. Maybe this knight moves somewhere to go after the knight on c6, but like knight h.
Knight h.
I don't know.
That's an interesting move. Knight h4, knight takes h4, bishop c6. Okay, complicated. Position complicated, but okay. Bishop d7, bishop takes a8. Yeah, okay.
Wild.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. But I think if this works out for black, I would consider b6. Yeah. Because the thing is, if white drops the bishop back to a3, then black fianchettos, and that's a double-sided sword. If black can orchestrate the trade of light squared bishops, white's going to be in big trouble. And I think Wesley's preparing b6.
Yeah, I think rook b8 is a smart move, and he played it relatively quickly. And that's what these best players do, is they don't spend all of their time trying to find that precise move this early. Yeah, exactly. You have to be practical. You have to play great moves quickly rather than the best move extremely slowly when you only have 10 minutes and no increments. So c3 played here by Arjun. You made a point, the d4 square under black's control. Now at least white's putting up a fight, but d4 itself is not going to be easy to play since all of black's pieces are staring at the square.
Indeed. And the bishop on a3, it's an interesting piece. I don't think it's bad, and I don't think it's good. It's hard to say because it is slicing through the position, making it a little bit harder for black to coordinate, covering the e7 square. Maybe black would have liked to put a knight or a queen there, and black can still put a knight there. On the other hand, the bishop isn't really participating in society. But later on in the game, of course, white could play b3, and the bishop could rejoin the game via c1. Although b3 is a move that comes with, certain consequences as well. It weakens the position.
Right, because as soon as I see the move b3, I'm thinking of playing b4 for black because I want to get that d4 square we keep talking about. Now, h4 and h5 have been included. The knight goes back to h6. Tanya, I mean, the position, now it's starting to really get double-edged. And here for white, what to do, right? I could put
I would consider b3. I would, now that the g5 square, b4.
Yeah. Okay. I really like it. I mean, I was also getting excited here because b4, bishop c1 played quickly. Arjun now up 40 seconds on the clock, and his pieces are starting to come to life. He can play b5, and if this knight is removed from c6, then he can even play c4 because the d4 square isn't that scary to give up control over.
And the move h5 by Wesley, very committal, because now if he goes f5, he weakens the g5 square tremendously, and white can plant that knight there. And it almost seems like a knight on g5 is somehow going to be stronger than a knight on g4. Wesley trying to create tension on the other side of the board. Arjun could simply go a3, or he could go b5. Yep, he goes b5, but will he follow up with c4 or a4? c4 weakens the d4 square.
I like a4.
Yeah, a4.
And if you ever play c6 for black, then b6 becomes a target. So it's one of these decisions you want to open up the board, but you do not want to give white a target. He plays knight f5 here. So look at black's knights coming in here, but white's knights also.
Bishop g5. You could play bishop g5, induce f6, and then drop the bishop back to c1. Kind of a typical grandmaster idea. I'm not sure that f6 is all that bad for black. Wesley could drop the knight from f5 backward to d6, trying to diffuse the flames of white's initiative in the center. It's a very complex position. I don't know who's better.
But he does exactly what you called for. And as you said, knight d6 is an option right now. There's something to be said, though. This bishop on b7 a little bit loose. So you have to watch out for tactics involving both knights jumping the way. And here comes knight g5. Knight g5.
Knight g5, he blunders.
Yep. I was just talking about the bishop being loose.
here's the amazing thing. If you say, it's okay, I won't take the knight. No, knight takes f6 check. Oh, my lands, what a blunder by Wesley.
Yeah, it's just immediately blundering this bishop on b7 here.
Arjun sees it.
Yeah, for sure.
This is an elementary tactic. That bishop, every time you have an undefended piece that's being x-rayed by another piece, Robert, you've got to pay attention to that. Wesley completely forgets about it. Uncharacteristic blunder by Wesley.
And helps.
This is winning, completely winning for white now.
Yeah, it helps to.
This isn't just a pawn.
It's not at all. And it helps just to be on the lookout. You say this very often in your instructive videos, loose pieces drop off to the bishop on b7. And actually, you helped this come to mind for me because you were talking about this idea of knight d6, which is a perfectly reasonable type of move. And I was thinking, if knight takes d6, can you take with the queen to keep the pressure going? Or will there be a problem with the bishop staring at each other? So it became apparent to me that the bishop on b7 not being defended was an issue. Here we see that Wesley, he falls right into it. Arjun, you don't need to ask him twice to find impressive tactics. And Danya, one other thing we didn't talk about is the a2 g8 diagonal. You were talking about inducing the move f6, and one of the big pluses for white is that the king on g8 now is not very safe there, in addition to the bishop falling on b7.
Great point. And that's why it's important to realize that it's not just that black loses a pawn. Black loses the entire position. All of these, once the light scored bishop disappears, it greatly exacerbates, as you said, the weakness of the a2 g8 diagonal and the long diagonal. This is absolutely miserable for black. And it's just bad luck. After knight g5, it's just immediately totally lost.
And, if Magnus Carlsen's out there watching this game, he's probably like, told you. I told you, Arjun Erigaisi, that guy is super strong, only 18 years old. And everyone was talking about his blitz and rapid strength because he won the Tata Steel India events. He tied for first in one and won the other. And so he is just, he's a force, especially in the quicker time controls, but also now we see it in classical chess. And Wesley So is feeling this over the board right now. The bishop on b7 is lost.
And we've seen him terrorizing the JSCC as well. Not a coincidence, it's Wesley. You can just sense the frustration in his body language as he plays from his hotel room in Berlin, where he was knocked out yesterday by Lenier Dominguez. Is that impacting him? I don't really think so. These players, especially someone like Wesley, he's so level-headed. He knows how to push it away. Something a little bit off about his form yesterday, and it seems today as well. He bites the bullet. Knight takes f6. Here it comes. And after bishop takes b7, white is also going to be threatening to drop the bishop back to c6 with a pin against the queen.
Yeah, that's a problem. You're going to lose an exchange there. If you take on g5, in comes the next bishop, and all your rooks are under attack.
That's a skewer, right? Bishop 6 technically is a skewer. If the more valuable piece is in front, it's a skewer.
That's right.
See, sometimes even GMs need to be reminded of this.
But you corrected yourself, and you asked when you weren't certain. See, that is an important lesson for many people.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, and what? I'm listening.
But I always say this, why I confuse the two terms.
No, why?
Because in Russian, it's one word. It's pin and skewer. There's no distinction between the two words. It's one word. So, and I, of course, grew up learning these terms in Russian, so I always confuse it. Well, and I have something fascinating to say about this.
Go for it. Teach us
really quickly, as Arjun. This is not chess related, but I had a professor in college who ran a really interesting experiment. So in Russian, there is a word for blue, and then there is one word for light blue. Like you refer to the sky not as blue, but as light blue. And he ran an experiment where he actually saw if native Russian speakers were better at distinguishing different shades of blue, objectively speaking, and he found that they actually were, because there's this additional word. So this thing actually exists. It was a fascinating experiment.
As I've learned throughout the years, just reading tons of different pieces, that other languages tend to have more words, for when English would describe it with 4 different words. So I appreciate those stories, Danya. I don't think that Wesley appreciates his position. He put his king on h.
Good segue.
Oof, all the problems exist. White's up a pawn. It's going from bad to worse, I would say.
That sound perfectly characterizes the suffering that Wesley is going through. Queen b3 is another idea. Both preparing bishop a3 and knight e6, forking him this way and that way. No, he takes on e5. So he actually goes very concrete approach. Okay, so rook takes d1, knight takes c5.
There's f. Oh, you're saying there's no
c5 check. Queen c5 check. Be careful.
That's a good point. And actually, then all
maybe
of a sudden,
knight f.
White's king 3. Knight f3 looks great. Bishop f4 can't be wrong.
I mean, but then queen c5.
But bishop f4, queen c5. You're going for my f2 pawn, but knight e4
bishop e5, knight e6.
That's even better. I was saying knight e4 at a minimum just to defend everything. But as you're pointing out, bishop e5, knight takes, knight e6 is a big problem for black, losing everything.
Yeah, literally everything. Rook, the knight. And Arjun, d takes e5, very committal decision, but he's got enough firepower to carry him through the finish line here, I think.
And queen d5, look at that nice move, because the queen can try to come to e6, trying to force a queen trade. Bishop f4 can happen next. As long as you don't allow this bishop to move away with check, then the rook is winning the showdown with the queen on the e-file.
Mm-hmm. Knight e6, bishop g5.
Whoa, knight h4.
Wesley.
Play. He's trying to get bishop h2.
Not going to go gentle into that good knight.
Wait, that actually probably was something that Arjun wasn't entirely expecting, because it's a sacrifice, and now he's thinking, and he plays f4, because if bishop d4, we said you don't want to allow a check, but there's a counter check after queen takes d4, the king on h8 is under attack. So that would be a free piece, and thus the game in two pieces, because the knight h4 would be lost next. So,
and that's nasty, because if white had gone king f1 after bishop d4 check, knight h2 is mate.
Oh
so
my goodness,
this is an important resource.
Wow. So f4 spotted by Arjun. He knew his position was winning. He finds the knockout here, and it's just going to win a piece. And just to show you why the knight wasn't captured, bishop h2 check is a big problem, because king f1, yes, it defends the rook, but it doesn't stop rook takes f2 with check and mate. So that's how swiftly the game can end if you're not looking out for your king safety. Knight went back to f5, and Danya, I would probably just play rook takes e5 and trade queens, because I know that's winning, but maybe pawn takes e5 is objectively better. But yeah,
I love rook takes e5, though. It's a very practical decision. And that's it. I mean, the red carpet has been rolled out for the e5 pawn. Maybe bishop a3 here to start. You can probably play e6 and allow knight e2 check. And Arjun's going to take, I mean, look at how he's managed this time. He's got almost half of his time remaining. Incredible.
Yeah, he is speedy. He is strong. King g2 does the same thing as bishop a3, making sure you don't allow rook f1 and knight e2 with check to win that bishop. And now if the knight comes to e2, just e6, as you were saying, e7 next. And actually, Danya, there are positions where you don't even queen right away, because if the rook goes
knight e6,
to d8,
knight f8.
Knight, yeah, exactly. Bring the knight,
knight d8.
To d8 and
beautiful.
Or if the rook came to g8, that was your point. If rook g8, knight e6, knight f8, nicely spotted here. You're just trying to promote and cut off the rook from sacrificing himself for the new queen.
Beautiful. Beautiful, as they say. And what a smooth game by Arjun, who is going to win and jump to, I think, 4 out of 5.
That's correct. And well, let's head on to the other game. We know that Arjun's going to take this one. It looks like the game with Anish Giri is still going on here. So why don't we pull up that one? He is playing against, who is he playing? He is playing, I just had it open and now I lost it. There it is. Okay.
you.